What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's April 24th and Bitcoin is trading just above 27,000. You guys may remember that on April 19th, we discussed that Bitcoin flashed a bearish signal, and the next day, Bitcoin dumped. We made a dump explained video. A lot of you guys really enjoyed that bearish call, which was a short-term bearish call. A lot of people thought that I became a bear by making this bearish call for the daily RSI breakdown. But what you got to keep in mind is that this is just a temporary bearish signal, just as it was previously all the way back for 2 years or more. It was one of the most reliable bearish signals, and we saw it show up. So I said, hey guys, you know, it's looking a little bearish for the time being. And we saw Bitcoin drop after that. That's all that call was really about. Now what I'm doing, now that we got the dump we were looking for, now what I want to do is look at the past to see where the best long signal is. In relation to this bearish breakdown signal, what I want to do is take a look at the inverse signal for the next major low point. If we flip the chart here to this chart, where I have the green line showing where the RSI bottoms out, and where the MACD flips, that's the area that I'm looking at now. It looks similar, but if you look close enough, these lines are in different spots. A lot of times what happens is the bearish breakdown signal triggers, and then very shortly after, the bullish reversal signal triggers. And this is why a lot of people lose money, because we have most of the majority of the downside taking place in a short period of time with a quick rebound up, right? So those signals usually come somewhat close to one another, right? And so what I want to look for now is, when is the RSI going to bottom out? So what we're looking for is for the RSI to hit a bottom and create somewhat of a V-shaped bottom for the RSI, a quick rebound, with a MACD cross up on the daily. That's the inverse of the bearish breakdown signal, right? And so now things are a little bit tricky because Bitcoin is in an uptrend. For a long time, we were in a downtrend. So the bullish signals were, you know, somewhat reliable, but not as reliable because the trend was down. Over in the bull market, this particular signal was very, very effective. You would get the RSI to come down to a bottom, create somewhat of a V, and once the daily MACD began to gain some positive momentum on that V bottom, and especially once the MACD crosses up, that's where the major run takes place. And this takes place just about every time. So for example, right here in February of 2021, the RSI comes down, finds a slight V bottom, and then you can see the MACD histogram goes from the hollow histogram to the solid histogram right on that RSI V bottom. And as you start to get those solid MACD histograms, you see the positive momentum is gaining. If you take a long inside of this signal, you really catch most of the upside on the next move. So this here is March of 2021. You see the RSI comes down to a V bottom. The MACD histogram begins to go solid, gain some positive momentum, indicating the trend might be changing. And there, boom, if you longed that signal, you caught the next upswing. And from that point, you know, went from 51,000 to 65,000. So there is definitely opportunity in these signals. And the reason why I'm looking at 2021 is because this is an uptrend. And we are now, once again, in an uptrend. Higher highs, higher lows. It's an uptrend. And back in 2021, the RSI did not reach oversold levels on these dips, right? So in the bear market, the RSI breakdown signal usually led to oversold levels. So it is definitely a strong possibility that Bitcoin could reach oversold, because we're only just out of this bear market, so we may not be as bullish as 2021. So if we did reach oversold, that would be an even better indicator that we're near a low. If the RSI creates a V bottom and the MACD begins going from these hollow histograms to solid red histograms to show that the momentum is picking up to the upside, maybe by then we come down a little bit more. You wait for those two things to show up, and if you take a long, usually you'll catch the next major uptrend. You know, however high Bitcoin goes, it may be a shorter term pump, or it could be a much larger pump, but that's the kind of signal that I'm waiting for. And I think that it's very important that you wait for that, because right now it's kind of like no man's land. You're just taking a guess. You don't have any real punctuation from the RSI. You don't have the MACD actually flipping and showing any actual trend change, right? We're just seeing these hollow histograms showing that the negative momentum is still present in the market and the RSI hasn't given us that V bottom. So I think it's important to be waiting for this type of a shape and the MACD coming up, and then you could be looking for a long. And just to go back to what we've been talking about for the past many weeks, many months on this channel, is the parabolic curve pattern, the mid-cycle parabola. You know, bull markets have the primary parabolic trend, right? 2021 primary parabolic trend. But after the main bull market, as we come down into the bear market, you see usually a mid-cycle parabola. And Bitcoin is currently in one now. Usually, at least in the past, this parabola would end up topping out at the first lower high. After the bull market begins to end, the first lower high is sort of that target. You could also look at the 618 fib extension. This lower high is about 48,000. So I think that if we continue up, eventually, we're looking for about 48,000 just above base 4 of the parabolic cheat sheet for the 2023 mid-cycle parabola. And so if you're looking at the 2023 mid-cycle parabola, the potential structure that we have, as long as we're above 25,000, right? As long as we bounce above or at 25,000, we're generally doing okay in this trend. And we're looking for one last major move up towards 48,000, the first lower high after the bear market began, as the target zone. I know a lot of the bulls out there that are super bullish, you know, keep telling me, Kev, we're not going to top out there. We're just going to, you know, continue straight up. I mean, you know, I don't think that's very likely. You know, we have to wait for the halving usually for Bitcoin to get super, super bullish. I mean, anything is possible, but I'm not going to say that we're just going to go up in a straight line forever. I would say that 48,000 would be a pretty darn good spot for the price to get to pre-halving, and then, you know, break down out of the parabola, go sideways. And then once the halving takes place, which it'll come sooner than you expect, we look to move up again. So I think it's a more realistic expectation. When does this whole idea become invalidated? Well, if we can't hold parabolic structure, that's when it ends. If we break that parabolic trend line, you know, that is something you really should not ignore. The parabolic trend line, whether we break it sooner or whether we break it later, that breakdown is very, very key. We've talked about this before, but on Twitter I was posting about the weekly line chart and just showing you every time we get a breakdown, you know, whether it's the primary parabolic trend in a bull market or the mid-cycle parabolic trend, you know, those breakdown signals out of the parabolic curve are not something you should ignore. It always results in downside, you know. So it's definitely important to not be too too biased or too stubborn. If the signal shows up, you got to respect it. I think we do have a very good shot of getting to about 48,000, but once we break that trend line, you got to respect that. I mean, this is just how Bitcoin behaves, and it's, you know, very high hit rate of being a bearish signal when you break that parabolic trend line. Good thing is it's just a mid-cycle parabola. If we break down, fine, we'll go sideways for a bit and then look to wait for the halving. But anyway, going back just to recap of what I said earlier, for Bitcoin, I'm waiting for that RSI daily V-shape low to come in with the MACD histograms going solid, showing positive momentums building, and that is a long signal. So that has not shown up yet, which means we're in no man's land. There's a possibility that the price could come down a little bit, but that wouldn't be too bad. That would probably get us that signal sooner rather than later. And then I would say that that's a pretty good long signal. So that's the setup I'm looking for. So that is the inverse bullish signal, which is sort of the paired bullish signal to the daily RSI breakdown signal that we called earlier this week before the dump. But that's it, guys. Hope you found this valuable. If you did, subscribe to this channel and hit the like button. If you want to support my work, be sure to join Patreon, and I'll see you guys in the next video.